Hello wrestling fans, boxing fans, and everybody out there. It's my time. Now we're going to talk some wrestling, we're going to talk some boxing. Okay? Let's start out with this. To my wrestling fans, XPW, Extreme Pro Wrestling, had its rebirth pay-per-view last night. And the competitors in the tournament were Willie Mack, Matt Cross, Brian Cage, Rhino, Silas Young, TJ Perkins, and some people I'm not too sure of. The finals came down to Willie Mack and Brian Cage. Brian Cage won the tournament. Brian Cage is the XPW World Champion, but we all know that he's affiliated with All Elite Wrestling. So what does this mean? Does this mean that Brian Cage can freelance between promotions? Does it mean that there's a business arrangement with XPW and All Elite Wrestling? What does this mean? For those of you who are not familiar with XPW, ECW went out of, Paul Heyman's ECW went out of business in 99, 2000, 2001. About 2001. It went out of business in 2001. Then, later that year, XPW was born with this guy named Rob Black. A lot of former ECW guys came out. New Jack, Vic Grimes, Sabu, the Sandman, Sean Waltman, Six Pac, he came out. It lasted from 2001 to 2003. Then it went away for 18 years. They had their rebirth last night with Brian Cage becoming the world's champion. They had their show in New York City. In New York. Rochester, I believe. And we'll see what happens with that, man. Brian Cage is the world's champ. As we all know, that XPW was based on the West Coast in California. But we'll see what happens with that. Let's talk some boxing. I said it in my last vid that Canelo Alvarez defeated Sweet Hands. This is like a part 2 to it. This is like a continuation of the last video. Canelo is now calling out Andre Ward. Andre Ward retired after the Andre Kovalev fight. After the two Kovalev fights. And he's been an analyst on ESPN, and he commentated some boxing. Now, he hasn't fought since 2018, 17, 18, maybe 2016. I'm not sure, but I know he retired after the Kovalev fights, the two Kovalev fights that he had. Let me say this to Canelo Alvarez. Andre Ward is a very gifted fighter. From A to Z, very gifted fighter. He's undefeated still. Very gifted. And, but I guarantee you, if you are to fight Andre Ward is not going to come in there to just be a whooping boy. Andre Ward is not going to come in there just to be embarrassed and look bad. He's going to come in there, he's going to fight, he's going to be in shape, he's going to be right. He's going to come to fight every minute of every round. He's going to be breathing down your neck. It's going to be something that you're not used to. Mr. Canelo, you also understand that Andre Ward hasn't fought in like 3-4 years. He hasn't been in the ring. And for Andre Ward to come out of retirement, he's going to add, like, it's going to cost you some money. It's going to cost you some money. It's going to cost you a boatload of money to get that boy back in the ring. A boatload of money. Andre Ward is a businessman first. It's going to cost you some money. Heavy money. Heavier than the heaviest heavyweight. Andre Ward is no easy pickings. It's no cherry pick. That boy can fight. Period. He can fight. It's going to cost you a lot of money to get that boy out of retirement. But in the meantime, Demetrius Andrade, the man they call Boo Boo. Don't ask me how he got his nickname. I have no friggin' idea. Demetrius Andrade, the guy that you said didn't beat anybody. He hasn't fought anybody. He beat nobody for his championship. Well, if it's so easy, if he didn't beat anybody and it's light work, then why don't you fight the man? If it's an easy payday for you, bruh. If he ain't fought nobody and he got his belt off of a nobody, then it should be easy. An easy payday. What's the hesitation? Demetrius Andrade. Ain't nobody else left. Don't nobody give a damn. And I know some people are going to say, what about the Charlos? What about this? What about that? The Charlos didn't want to fight Andrade. Neither one of them. Jermell Charlo didn't even want to give Tony Harrison a third fight. So he ain't messing with Demetrius Andrade. Or maybe a possible rematch up with Caleb Plant. Let's talk about Javonte Davis. Alright? Javonte Davis, he's a very talented fighter. I wish that Teofimo Lopez and him have been going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. The thing is, I don't believe anything that boxing has to say until it happens. Until I hear an announcement, a contract, something. I don't believe anything that boxers or promoters tell you. I don't believe nothing until I see a contract, something. Or I hear something on the news or see something on TV, something that was posted. I don't believe none of that until something happens. Dillian Whyte is finally getting his just due. He's finally getting a shot at the WBC title. It depends on... I'm just happy for Dillian Whyte to get this opportunity that he's fought so hard for. When the opportunity comes, I know he's not going to waste it. It's going to be a hell of a fight. So, shouts out to Dillian Whyte. You earned it. You worked hard for it. When the time comes, capitalize on it. Make it your night, bro. The sport of boxing is very fickle. I like to see a Javonte Davis fight with Teofimo Lopez, but who knows with the sport of boxing. Gary Russell Jr. is a very talented boxer. The only problem that I see with him is he's got to be more active. He's got to fight more often. He only fights about once a year. So he's got to be more active. All the old school guys will say, activity is your friend. The more active you are, the more you're seen, the better your chances are of getting the fights that you're asking for. So my advice to Gary Russell Jr. is to just be a little bit more active. You know, I know last year, 2020, was very hard, and we're still dealing with the COVID thing, and everybody's a little tentative. But, and I do understand it 100%. But activity is your friend in boxing. The more you're seeing, the better it is. Ride time. Wrestling and boxing forever. I'm out.